What is good, everybody? This is your boy Aaron.
It's Brian.
This is the Courtside podcast, and we are back today, and we are talking about the National Basketball Association. It's been a long time, but we are finally back, and we got a lot to discuss, man, because we're at the middle portion of the regular season, and um, a lot of surprises, a lot of stuff that I already knew was going to transpire. And I think we need to discuss this. Now, Brian, before the podcast, I had the time to watch some games from some teams that I had a lot of opinions on before the season. And then also, it was something else that I was going to say, but I forget. But yeah, the Knicks, Celtics, Rockets, Spurs, Pistons are another team that I'm very fascinated about because I didn't think that they were going to be the number one seed to this point. So those are some teams that I had the opportunity to watch before this game to get an idea what these teams are all about. And I have a couple of things. So, but before we do that, I want to touch on the big news. Not really. I wouldn't call this like necessarily breaking news because this has sort of been the topic of conversation for a while now. But the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade rumors, it seems like they're starting to really ramp up. I believe there was a report about the Milwaukee Bucks. They're looking for trade partners to potentially trade Giannis Antetokounmpo. In my opinion, I highly doubt they are able to move Giannis because it's going to take a lot to just get Giannis to another destination and get market value for him. So, Brian, just your thoughts on this whole Giannis situation and why you think it's taking a long time for the Bucks to end up finding a trade partner.
Honestly, I don't think they will find a trade partner because I think I literally saw a report that said they're asking for everything in the Giannis in the potential Giannis trade, and I don't know what teams really have all of that. You need to have players and you need to have a lot of draft picks, and the Knicks traded 5 of their picks just to get Mikal Bridges, and I don't know if they have the draft compensation to match what the Buccaneers want. The Warriors, I don't think the Warriors aren't really a factor in my opinion in this. Uh, Other than that, I really don't see much teams that are like contenders or in contention to win anything really making this deal. And I just think the Buccaneers just want so much money. I mean, not so much money. They just want so much compensation that teams are just going to be like, well, we all right.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wait for the brick to go down a little bit more.
I think another thing teams not have to take into account is Giannis's injury history because I was scrolling through Twitter/X and somebody brought up a good point about Giannis's calf. That's a major concern. I think they said this is his third time injuring his calf, and now he's out for 4 to 6 weeks. He's 31. I think he's like 31 years old now. He's over 30, so that it's that, and the way that his game is played, very physical, uh, high flyer. It's a bit of a concern for somebody like that because you could say, well, is his game gonna age well? So you have that to really think about, and then you have the Bucks telling teams, like you mentioned, that we want all of these assets for a Giannis Antetokounmpo that, as of this moment, has a calf injury, which nowadays is almost a death sentence if you don't take care of it right. So that's really the predicament they're in. Oops, just dropped my thing. Can you hear me? Am I good?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Yeah. So my thing with this is, I don't know if there's going to be a team that's willing to take a risk during this season. I think they're going to be stuck with Giannis. I think Giannis is going to remain a buck for this year, and they're just going to have to figure out a way to get Giannis to another team next year. And then I think Giannis, he has some preferences of teams that he wants to go to, and it just seems like the teams that he wants to go to doesn't have the necessary assets that the Bucks are looking for. So they're in a tight predicament. I don't think this is going to be all well and dandy. I think they're going to have to wait until the end of the season, during the off season, to really try to find some sort of assets that they can get back for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I just don't think it's the case right now.
Yeah, and I think the audio is coming from your computer and not the mic. So,
Oh,
but yeah,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's not bad though. It's not bad. I think once it got disconnected, it switched over. But yeah,
Yeah,
like these superstar type deals are so tricky because it's just so hard to like. It feels like this is going more towards a league where you have to really, like we said before, where you have to prioritize the draft and developing players because teams aren't really going to be willing to get these major hauls for superstar players. Like that Luka Doncic thing was an anomaly. They pretty much got him for, if they ain't get Cooper Flag, they would have got him for a bag of chips in the can of Sprite. So it was just like, yeah, I doubt we'll see like a super major deal. But then again, Desmond Bain just went for a bunch of first round picks as well as Mikal Bridges. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think teams have the capital for this. And if the contender team wants to trade for Giannis, they're going to have to give up core pieces that would make their team good now. So I don't know. I just don't think it's like realistic to see a deal get done. And watch as we say this. Watch we get off the podcast. The trade gets announced, but yeah, I just don't see one happening yet.
I think it's more so, does it make sense? I think there are teams with assets that they can give to the Bucks for Giannis, but it's about, do the timelines match? Because again, he's over 30 years old. He has those injuries. So when you get Giannis, you're expecting, all right, this is championship or bust. And you only have a small window of a chance to really capitalize on Giannis's prime, because you don't really know how many years left he has playing in that level. So, for instance, the Spurs are a great example where they have a ton of assets. They have picks, they have a ton of young players. But when you look at the Spurs team, you asking yourself, okay, like we're already really good as it is, and we have a bunch of young players that are on the same timeline as Victor Wembanyama. Do you want to just screw it and package some of those young players for a Giannis Antetokounmpo who realistically will probably only have maybe 2 to 3 years with Victor Wembanyama, just looking at the way that he's playing right now and then looking at the injuries from Giannis? Do you really want to take that risk of only maybe 2 to 3 years where he's still at that superstar elite level? Or do you just want to say, you know what, let's just build with this young group, and hopefully over time they'll develop and we'll be able to get to that championship organically? That's where I'm looking at it. I think it's more so a timeline thing. I think teams who are trying to win it all, like right now, in a small window of time, like the Knicks, for example, they don't have the assets. So that's a team that would perfectly mesh with Giannis, with his style of play and the timeline of everything. But because they don't have the assets, he's stuck. And I think other teams, I'm trying to think of other teams that could fit Giannis's timeline and could win a championship. Maybe the Houston Rockets. But here's the thing with the Houston Rockets: they trade away all those picks for Kevin Durant, so you have that to worry about. So it's really difficult, and I can't think of a team. I don't even think the Miami Heat have enough assets. I don't even think, like, these are teams that,
What about the Raptors?
the Raptors, I don't think they're good enough to compete for a championship. If you trade away enough young assets and picks and you bring in Giannis, I don't think they're good enough to compete for a championship either. So
What about Orlando?
no, I don't think Orlando. No, I don't think, and I don't know if the Bucks. Another thing, I don't know what the Bucks like specifically want. Like what players they would want back. Would they want a
That
Jalen
is true.
Suggs? Would they want a Paulo Banquero?
You would
Like
have to throw in Paolo.
really, really,
I would, and I'd live with the decision.
But even if you do, let's say you trade Paulo with some picks for Giannis, I still don't think that puts them as a championship level team, because the lack of shooting, They still need a point guard. There's so many holes on that team that they need to fill. I don't think Giannis just all of a sudden puts them to that next tier. So that's what you're really looking at with a lot of these teams is okay, if we add this guy, is he good enough to put us to the level of a championship level team? And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of these teams are very flawed. And in this era of the NBA, you need a complete roster. You can't just rely on two superstars or three-star players and a bunch of mediocre to below average role players. Like you need a complete roster to win a championship. It's not, we're not in the 2010s, we're not in the 2000s and 90s, 80s anymore. Like you need a complete roster to win it.
Facts.
That's why Giannis is stuck where he's stuck right now.
Yeah, it's that the Bucks just did a better job drafting and developing and making, like, they traded Drew for a bag of chips. Oh no, they traded him to get Dame, didn't they?
Yeah, they traded. Yeah,
Yeah.
they traded for Dame. Yeah.
Then they shipped Dame up out of there. I don't know what that front office is doing, but it's not working. They just need to reset it. Like that's where they need to start from ground. Where you got a ring out of Giannis, so it's not like it was a failure. I know Giannis would like to be probably a franchise cornerstone guy, probably stay with the same team his whole career. But the way the team is running right now, they stink. You lost to the Wizards every time you play. Y'all played them 3 times and you lost all 3 games to the 12-win Wizards. And not saying this as a Wizards fan. You lost to the Wizards 3 times this season. That is a problem. You're not a good team.
No. And,
so you just got to tear it down to the floorboards. Doc Rivers was a failure. The experiment stunk.
Yeah.
You fired Griffin when you was 30-13. Listen, they just been taking misstep after misstep ever since that 2021 ring. So I feel like it's just the inevitable at this point. Obviously, wait for a good deal if you're going to trade a top 5 player in the league. But sometimes you just got to be like, hey, rip the Band-Aid off. And I feel like the Bucks, the longer they sit, the longer the price of the brick goes down. So, because Giannis is only getting older, he's getting more injuries are popping up more frequently. So you're gonna have to cut ties eventually.
Yeah, and I think OKC, you would think like maybe OKC, but then
Sam Presti could press the button if he wanted to. Like
he could, but
he seems like
you have to look at it from the perspective of okay, we have this continuity of guys that are at the same age range, and Giannis is getting paid a boatload of money. Do you want to pay Giannis a boatload of money and he's over 30 and the injury concern?
And you run into apron
it's
issues.
hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Like it's not as easy as maybe last year, I think, where this team wasn't very good, but they made the playoffs. There's still these rumblings about Giannis getting traded, and Giannis was relatively healthy. Now it's a lot harder, I think, because of the injuries, because of teams trading away picks for talent and stuff. It's a lot harder now, and I think they've waited too long. I think they should have done this maybe a year or two ago. If they would have done it a year or two ago, they would have had an amazing haul.
Honestly, I don't see a team in the West trading for Giannis. I just feel like this is going to sound crazy. I don't think Silver wants that many stars on one conference. Because like you would have Luke over there, you would have Giannis over there, you'd have Jokic over there, Wemby's over there, Flag is over there. I know I'm missing some people. KD is over there, Steph is over there. Like that is just way too much firepower on one conference. The East, their best player would be, this isn't a slight to him, so please don't beat me up, Jason Tatum.
Injured
yeah.
Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Injured.
Who currently is recovering from an Achilles injury. And then the second best, I believe, Cade Cunningham?
Cade Cunningham and Jalen Brunson, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Now,
not looking.
now you
Not
see
looking
why they're
good.
doing the East versus the USA versus the world in the All-Star game instead of East versus West.
Yep. But we'll see how things go. Trade deadline is getting very close, and we'll react to that later on. But it's looking dark for Milwaukee. I don't see where they can make a legit trade that they can recoup enough assets for Giannis. I don't see it, but we'll see. But let's transition. Um, I want to talk about just some teams that I was very high on coming to the season, wasn't very high on coming to the season. The first team I want to talk about is the Houston Rockets. I wasn't a very big believer of the Houston Rockets coming into the season. I thought that they were going to be really good. I thought they were going to be really competitive. They were going to play really good defense. But ultimately, they still have a lot of holes on this team, mostly offensively, that raised my eyebrow. So I was watching the Spurs Rockets game, and surprisingly, the Rockets were getting mostly everything they wanted in the paint. Guys were hitting shots from the 3-point line. Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, all these guys were hitting shots. But then around the end of the third quarter to the fourth quarter is when their flaws started to show. And you probably seen it. You've probably seen a video on Twitter of Amin Thompson reluctantly not
Refusing
wanting
to
to shoot the
shoot. Yeah,
ball,
yeah.
giving the
NBA
ball
player,
to
by the way.
KD. So he was very aggressive for most of that game. But when the fourth quarter rolled around, the Spurs did a really good job of preventing him from getting to the paint and forcing him to shoot jump shots. And he was not able to hit those jump shots, mid range, 3-pointer. He wasn't even attempting. And it really had a detrimental effect to the offense. And even, I'll say this, even when they were up in the game, they were up double digits at one point. I didn't like how they were getting their points. A lot of it was fast break, second chance. Surprisingly, Victor Wembanyama wasn't doing a good job of protecting the paint. I thought it was one of his worst defensive performances for the first three quarters. But in it wasn't because of their offensive flow. It wasn't because of they're having plays called and it's opening up this guy for an open shot. It was none of that. And Kevin Durant, a lot of his shots that he made were very heavily contested, even though he was making them. So I was like, okay, cool, but this isn't going to last. And in the fourth quarter, that's exactly what happened. And I hear a lot of stuff. I'm going to be talking a lot about this, but I hear a lot of stuff about the Rockets need a point guard to initiate the offense and stuff like that. I don't think it's necessarily they need a point guard. I think the problem with the Rockets is that their three best players don't complement one another. Amin Thompson, Sengun, and Kevin Durant do not complement one another. And here's why. Let me break it down. Sengun is your prototypical low post scorer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Durant can fit in any offensive scheme. No matter what offense he's in, no matter what team he's on, his game translates. No matter what era he's in, it doesn't matter. Kevin Durant is a generational player for a reason. But here's the thing. Kevin Durant, if you want Kevin Durant to be at his best, he needs space. He needs guys that can demand respect from the outside as a shooter. And that's not what Sengun and Amin Thompson is providing for Kevin Durant. He's pretty much back in his OKC days where he has to do a lot of heavy isolation. He's getting a lot of his shots are getting heavily contested, and he has to make a lot of heavily contested shots. And while he's still one of the better ISO scorers and it's very hard to block his shot, it's not easy. And when Sengun, because he's pretty much only a low post scorer And you can't really run the offense through him in this day and age because, again, in this day and age, it's more so perimeter oriented. So, and he's not as talented of a passer as a Nikola Jokic. You know what I mean? So you have that to worry about. He's not an outside shooter. He's not an elite mid-range scorer. He's just a good low post scorer. And Amen Thompson can't shoot. So how are you going to have a very functioning offense if two of the three best players on your team don't complement one another with the best player on the team? It doesn't matter if you guys don't have a really good offensive scheme. You can not have a really good offensive scheme, but if you have the necessary talent, you can offset whatever scheme that you have. I don't think they have that at all. I think they're great defensively. Amen Thompson is an amazing driver of the basketball. They can create turnovers. They can get second chance points off the glass. But when you get them to a half court setting and you slow the game down, it's going to be very hard for them to score consistently. And I think the Spurs, they showed that, I believe it was 2 nights ago on the 29th, that in the fourth quarter, if you slow them down, if you force Amen to shoot jumpers, if you have somebody that can protect the paint and prevent Sengun from getting to 5 feet and into the basket consistently, you're going to win. And that's what the Spurs did. And that's why with this Rockets team, that's why they are, I believe they're the 4th seed right now. This is why they haven't really reached their ceiling and why they have been a bit inconsistent at times, is because their top 3 guys don't complement one another. What is your thoughts on what I just said?
I think your point about it's not necessarily the point guard, but more so the synergy between the top 3 guys does make sense because I feel like you said, KD needs more spacing for this whole thing to work, and he's 37, I believe. He can't be the driving horse when it comes to gets down to the stretch like against the Spurs. Them dudes is young. They're gonna run all game. Blah blah blah. And the thing that really turned that game around, they put Stephon Castle on Sengun and KD, I believe, because Wemby he was low key getting his face fried off against Sengun, and then they made that switch and they was able to. The game became way different. So yeah, they got to get some shooters, man. They have to get shooters. You can't rely on Jabari Smith being something he isn't. He's not going to be a 35% 3-point shooter for an entire season. It's just not happening. He doesn't have that in his game. Reed Shepard hasn't been great. A lot of time, just down that stretch, he was getting hunted down the stretch. I saw them clips. I was like, oh my goodness, they playing whoever offense on him, and it was bad. Amen Thompson refusing to shoot is a problem. Like you were a lottery pick. You need to shoot the basketball. And I know he's not a great shooter at all, but you are an NBA player. If teams aren't going to respect you shooting he would. And the crazy thing is about that one clip I saw, he was at the 3-point line. He said he's not going to take the 3. He took like 3 steps closer. He still didn't shoot. And it's like you can't do anything with that.
No.
Like if you remember I forgot who said this quote, but they said specialists don't play in April or something like that. And if you just the only thing you're gonna offer is defense and hustle, and I guess he could generate some rim pressure, but he's not doing that. Not in the clips, and now from what I saw. So yeah, that's a problem. It's a roster issue, and it's a shame that Fred VanVleet went down before the season even begun, because he would have been a big help, because at least he would have provided something as far as the playmaking department in traditional PG role. But yeah, I'm not as high on the Rockets as I was preseason. I thought they was going to be really, really good. I mean, they're not a bad team. They're 4th seed in the West, but that championship ceiling, I don't see it with this group. They need better dudes.
You mentioned Reed Shepard, and you know what's funny is during that game, the offense was actually getting a groove when he was on the floor, but the problem is his defense. So you're gonna have to live with the negative portion of his game, which is his defense, because he's undersized. But when he's on the floor, he provides that spacing that you will want
Because he
for the
can actually
team.
shoot.
He can shoot the long ball. So you have that to where, because he's shooting nearly 40% from the
Yeah.
field on 6 attempts from three a game. So that's pretty good. But unfortunately, his defense and his lack of size just hurts him overall, because you got to live with it. Got to live with the good and the bad with him. And that's the thing with this team, man, is that they don't have enough guys that can stretch the floor, and the top three guys is just not a perfect fit. Somebody, if they want to win a championship, somebody's gonna have to go. Somebody's gonna have to move, because you can't have those three guys together unless those three guys, specifically the two young players, improve in their game, which is going to take a long time. I don't know if Amin Thompson will ever be that good 3-point shooter. I don't know if Sengun will ever be a really good mid-range to 3-point scorer. I saw him attempt some shots against the Spurs, but it didn't really go in, and I don't expect him to really take a significant leap as a 3-point scorer. So you have that to worry about. I think Sengun, to me, I feel like he's more, if you're really trying to get the best out of Sengun, this is where the point guard thing comes into play. You need somebody that you can do a two-man game with. You know what I mean? Like, remember when Fox and Sabonis used to, when they were actually winning games for the Sacramento Kings, something like that, where you have an elite ball handler that can facilitate as well, and you can play off one another. That's not the case in Houston. They're not playing off one another, and that's the problem. Is that it's too much my turn, your turn. It's not enough. Let's figure it out together, and let's move the ball and gel together and try to give us all open shots. It's none of that, and that's the problem. I think a perfect example of a two-man game is Murray and Jokic. I think they're the perfect complement for one another. They understand their what they're best at, and they're able to generate points from one another. That's the perfect two-man game. And I don't see that unless Sengun, unless Amin Thompson improve, we're not gonna see that from those two. And that's why I don't think they're gonna ever reach their ceiling.
You know what else is a big factor? Jabari Smith Jr. isn't developing on the
Oh yeah,
offensive end. If anything, he's getting worse with more minutes. Like you look at his numbers, he's shooting worse from the field. Ever since he shot that career high 45% his second year, he's down to 42%. His 3-point percentage has remained stagnant. Actually, he's gotten 2 points worse just about. His free throw percentage has dropped. I don't know. He's just not developing. And he's too inconsistent of a player. Like some games he'll look like how we did against the Pelicans, shot over 50%, had 32 points, 7 for 13 from 3. Like that's great performance for him. And then other games you have against the Spurs, he had 8 points, 3 for 8, 2 for 5 from, like, we can't have that level of variance and you want to compete for a championship. That's just not how that works. So you're supposed to be one of the core guys, and then this is the type of production we're getting. It's not ideal.
No, it's not ideal. But I want to also talk about the other Texas team, which is the Spurs. And I told you before, but I went to the Magic versus Spurs game. No Wemby, no Paolo, but I still got to see just the Spurs roster in general, how they play without Wemby, or let's say Wemby doesn't have a good game. And like I mentioned with this Rockets game, when the Spurs played the Rockets 2 nights ago, Wemby didn't play all that well the first 3 quarters, and yet they were still able to climb back, because the Spurs, one thing they do have, they got a lot of guys that can score the basketball. They got a lot of guys that they can go to generate offense. And I think that's why they're a very scary team, because if Wemby's not getting it going, all right, you can go to De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox ain't getting it going, you can go to Dylan Harper. If Dylan Harper ain't getting it going, you can go to Castle. Like, they got so many options that they can go to generate points. Harrison Barnes, like these guys, they're very there's different ways that they can win the game. They can win it in an ugly way. They can win it in a high scoring way. It doesn't matter. They can shoot the long ball. They can get to the paint whenever they want to. They just have so many different ways that they can beat you. And when I watched that Spurs Rockets game, it really showed itself the difference between the two teams, the difference between how these two teams are built, and the difference in talent level. And that's why the Spurs were able to climb back in the game, is because they kept generating good looks. They just weren't knocking it down.
Keldon Johnson too.
Yeah, Keldon Johnson. Like they were for the most part generating good looks. It's just they weren't knocking it down, or they were making mental errors. I was like, damn. I mean, I understand they're down, but they're still getting good looks. They just have to be smarter in some things. And when the fourth quarter rolled around and they made that adjustment, like you mentioned, and Victor Wembanyama locked in defensively and he started blocking, I think he had like 5 blocks that game. They locked in and they were able to climb back and win that game. And I just think they have a second gear that not many other teams have. And OKC Thunder need to be worried, because we've seen it for the better part of this entire season. The Spurs have their number for a reason. And it's because they can match up with them pretty well. They can score a bunch of points. They have one of the best players in the NBA in Victor Wembanyama, who is an amazing offensive and defensive player, and is the best rim protector in the NBA, and is arguably the best defensive player in the NBA. They got a lot of stuff they can do, man. Thunder, the Spurs, I was wrong about them coming to the season. I thought they were too young. No, they are ready now. They are ready to compete for a championship. And Victor Wembanyama, knocking on wood that he stays healthy throughout the season. If he stays healthy, if this team continues to mesh and grow, they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs no matter who they face. Simple and plain.
Yeah, the Spurs are tough team.
Very tough team, man. Very tough. I think they're second in the West right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're second in the West right now. Behind OKC. OKC still has a good lead on everybody else, but even still, I don't care. It doesn't matter where they have to play. San Antonio's still a tough out. But anywho, moving on. I do want to talk about the OKC Thunder a little bit. I do think that part of the reason why they're in a bit of a struggle is because Jalen Williams is out with an injury. I wasn't able to watch their most recent game. I think they lost to the Timberwolves. Matter of fact, I actually turned on the game and I saw that it was a blowout. I was like, you know what? Let me turn this game off. So I think part of the reason why they could be struggling is because not having Jalen Williams. But I also hear some things about their supporting cast, specifically Lou Dort, for an example. I'm always on Twitter and people are like bashing Lou Dort, saying he can't shoot, he's not good, he should have been a football player. Like I always hear those things about Lou Dort, or maybe even Chet Holmgren as well. But I'm not overly concerned with OKC. I have to wait and see until Jalen Williams come back. But I also have been hearing from other people saying Jalen Williams, when he came back, their offense wasn't as good. I don't know, man. I feel like it was too early to tell. I'm gonna wait until he comes back before I really give my my like real assessment on, is OKC, like, are they declining, or is it just you know, you're the champion and you're bored, the regular season's boring, you're just waiting for the playoffs? Like, I don't know. What was your thought? What's your thoughts on OKC?
I haven't really been able to watch a lot of their games, or many of the games at all, but for what I've been seeing, I feel like they're just coasting until April. They know that they're a good regular season team. I feel like they went on that crazy win streak early in the season. And I just feel like they just like, okay, as long as we maintain the first seed, try to stay healthy as possible, we get to April, and then we start running the table. Because I don't really think it's only really one team I think matches up with them well in April, and that's the Spurs. So I don't think they're really stressing over regular season hoops right now. They still have a really good team, young core, good coaching. I wouldn't be too worried about the Thunder as far as their record. They're still the best team in the league, in my opinion. So I just say they're probably just coasting. They don't really want to. They can't get the best record in the NBA history anymore. So it's not like it's just they've 6-4 in their last 10. So I just feel like they just maintaining. I guess they definitely don't look as dominant as they did last year, though.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Um, yeah, it seems like that could be the case. They only have 11 losses on the year. They're 38 and
Yeah,
11. They still have a lot
the
of
sky ain't falling.
wiggle room to go on a run. I mean, they're still the number one seed. They still have the best record in literally the entire NBA. Like they have the best record. They're up like one game on the Detroit Pistons with the best record in the entire NBA. So the sky isn't falling like you mentioned. But yeah, man, we'll have to see when Jalen Williams come back if this team can get back to form where they were last year. But that's all I can really say on that matter. Moving on, I want to talk about the New York Knicks. Had a lot of expectations for the New York Knicks. Now, as of this moment, they are on a 5-game winning streak. I got done watching both of their games. The first one was the Pistons game. I think it was around January 15th, and then the most recent game against the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors are actually a really good team this year. They are, I believe, a top 5 seed in the East. So I was curious, okay, how is this team going to look against a formidable Eastern Conference team? And they beat them pretty handily, which was a bit surprising to say the least. They're the number 2 seed in the East. But Brian, here's my thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like their offense at all. I think I
For
think
another year in a row.
I think Mike Brown is a fraud. Um,
Mm. He had that insanity run in Sacramento that
I
one year.
think I think this team. How could I say this? You know who Jalen? So here's what I believe. This team is the offense is Jalen Brunson, ISO ball. This you know what this reminds me of? The Philadelphia Eagles.
I knew he was about to say that.
The Philadelphia Eagles, bro. Here's why. It doesn't matter what offensive coordinator you bring in. It doesn't matter what offensive minded coach you bring in. We're gonna run Jalen Brunson ball. We're gonna run Jalen Hurts ball. You're gonna do it this type of way, in this setting, in this environment, with this quarterback, with this point guard, and that's gonna be the offense. All that, oh, I want to do this with this player. I want to do this with that player. I want to open up the floor. That's cool. But let's remember who's the guy in charge, and that is Jalen Brunson. That is Jalen Hurts. And when I watch this team play, it's the same thing they did last year. I don't see much difference. It's a bunch of isolation, a bunch of guys, a bunch of clutter. It don't seem like they're cutting much of the time. It just seems like here's the ball, ISO, ISO, ISO. If it doesn't go all good, drive and kick. Here's a guy, drive and kick. There's no spacing really. Karl Anthony Towns, he doesn't look engaged in the offense. I hate this offense. It is hard to watch. I don't care that they are on a 5-game winning streak. I don't care that they just beat the Toronto Raptors. Let me tell you something. This is not winning basketball. This is not sustainable in the playoffs because, one, offensively, you cannot just rely on Jalen Brunson ball hogging the ball for 15 seconds, isolation, trying to get to the mid-range, or he drives and kicks to Mikal Bridges, and he tries to drive 3 dribbles, pull up, or OG Anunoby does the same thing. You can't do that the entire game. Or when Cat gets the ball, he's at the top of the key, trying to drive like he's a damn guard. It just does not work in the playoffs, and I feel like they're doing it again. I feel like at the beginning of the season, it looked like they were trying something new. They were trying to implement a new identity. And I think they struggled at the beginning of the season for a little bit. People was like, what's going on with this offense? Why is it taking a long time? Yada, yada, yada. And then now I see they're like, screw it. Let's resort back to what we know, what we're good at. And this is a problem because you fired Tom Thibodeau because you believe Mike Brown could come in and provide a new identity to this offense. You can generate a lot of better looks for all the other players outside of Jalen Brunson. But it's the same thing, bro. Where's the two-man game with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns? Where are the pin downs for Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby? Where are the post-ups for Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby? It's none of that. It's iso ball. It's drive and kick and pray that somebody is able to get open or get a shot off. Or second chance points off the offensive rebound. Oh, we get the rebound. Somebody's open. A Shamet, a Jordan Clarkson is open for three. And hopefully they hit a three. Like, that's what it is. It's boring basketball. They're the second seed in the East. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think this is a winning formula.
That sounds like a fair assessment to me because, like you said, they got rid of Tom Thibodeau to start doing the same thing he was doing on offense, except they aren't getting played 40 minutes a game anymore. It's just, I don't know. The Knicks just, like you said, that Jalen Brunson ball, that is not winning basketball. I'm sorry. Karl-Anthony Towns, it still doesn't seem like he has a true solidified role in this offense. It just seems like he's just kind of used like a, oh shoot, it's almost time to shoot. Just give it to his cat and see what he can do. And it's just like, nah, that's that. Where is the risk? Where's the sets? Like you said, the pin downs, all of that stuff. We need to see it. And we haven't. I thought Mike Brown was going to be the one to unlock that because we saw what he did in Sacramento with that offense. But it's just not working out thus far with them. And yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at maybe some rotation things need to happen. I think I saw on Twitter someone said they started taking minutes away from somebody, and all of a sudden they started winning games. So I'm looking at the box score to see who could that possibly be, because they have won 5 games in a row. Again, not against the greatest competition in the world, but these are still NBA teams at the end of the day. So I want to see who exactly they're talking about. Because they beat the Suns. Oh no, that's further back. They beat the Trailblazers, Raptors, Kings, Sixers, Nets. Lost to the Mavs. Then they went on that 5-game win streak. But I don't know, man. They beat the brakes off the Nets. That's embarrassing. But I don't know, man. I'm not super sold on the Knicks either.
No.
Which is a shame because if anything, this is supposed to be the year to compete and possibly go to the finals. It's still early in the season. We still got a whole another half a season plus the playoffs. But the way it's looking, they look like the same team from last year.
Yeah, and a worse defense actually. I think they're worse defensively than what they were last year. At least they competed a little bit more last year. This year, dude, Karl-Anthony Towns, bro, like the effort is what I'm concerned about. He has no paint presence. When somebody drives to the paint, they are not afraid of Cat at all that he's going to block the shot. He is just a body. He's like a mannequin right there. There's nothing that he does in the paint at all. He doesn't intimidate nobody. Nobody is scared to not attempt to like he's just another guy there. There's literally nothing that he does. He's just standing there. Sometimes he won't even try to crash the glass. It is unbelievable. Like this guy.
Why is Josh Hart still your best rebounder?
Effort. It's effort at the end of the day. Effort. I don't know, man. This team is it blows my mind. Like they're still the number 2 seed, but
not by much.
Not by much, and there's so much expectations. They have so much talent, but it's the way that they're winning. It's how they got there that's concerning for me, because at the end of the day, in the playoffs, that record goes out the window. It's about, can you perform or not? And I don't think what we've seen will resort in them going to the NBA Finals unless they fix their offense and they fix their defense. Because the defense is another issue. It's being able to prevent guys from getting to the rim consistently. And I don't see that. Even when they had Mitchell Robinson and Cat on the floor, they would have trouble defending the rim. How is that possible? You got two bigs, one guy that's supposed to be athletic and it's like over 7 feet. That's your center, and he can't even prevent people from getting to the lane consistently. That makes no sense to me. And that's the problem that I have. Guys are not in rotation consistently enough on defense. They're allowing dudes to go by them. It's just ugly basketball. These are not ethical hoops. This is not ethical hoops to me. Like, it doesn't look good. You could tell when a team isn't all the way bought in to whatever the coach is telling them. And they're still winning because they got so much talent. It's
Wasn't there
unbelievable.
a report that came out not too long ago that said something along those lines, that the team isn't really buying into the Mike Brown
I
thing?
think that it might have been the beginning of the season too. I think I
Uh,
saw that. That might have been the beginning of the season.
mm.
So, yeah,
As much talent as they have, they got to figure something out.
absolutely, man. I don't understand it, man. I just don't. I don't. They were trying new stuff at the beginning of the season, and they were crying because because I think Kat talked about something to the realm. They didn't have enough time to learn the new offense. I think that was something that he talked about, because I remember a reporter asking him about it. They didn't really have a whole lot of time to really learn the new offense and grasp it and stuff. So because of that, they're not comfortable and they just resorted back to what they know best. I just think, man, like, this is
That's ridiculous.
such a waste of
That's
opportunity.
ridiculous.
Such a waste of opportunity.
Y'all look professional athletes getting paid all this money, and you telling me, oh, we didn't have enough time to learn. What other things you have to do?
I don't
If
know.
you don't get in the lab and learn, man, come on, man. And it's not like it's football where it's a bunch of X's and O's. You got to count for 21 other players on the field. It's 10 players on the court at all times. What do you mean you don't have enough time to learn the offense? Man, I'm not. That's a bunch of crap.
I don't know.
That's
I
why
don't
people call Cat soft. What kind of an excuse is that?
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. But they're still the number 2 seed for whatever reason.
They
Moving
got
on
the talent.
though,
That's why.
they got a lot of talent. But moving on though, I want to talk about the Detroit Pistons, and they're the number 1 seed in the East. And
The Pistons are so fun to watch.
here's my thing with the Pistons. They are, I'll say this, they give maximum amount of effort. They are one of the best teams in offensive rebounding. So that helps them a lot with the amount of possessions that they have.
They need it because they be putting up some bricks now.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm conflicted with this team because on one end, the amount of effort that they put on the offense and defensive end is very impressive. So I got to give them credit for that. They're very athletic. They are very physical. They're not a team that can be punked by anybody. They're a tough team. They're going to play every single night like it's a championship game. But the offensive end isn't the prettiest.
You know
It's
who
not.
the Pistons are?
Who are the Pistons?
The Texans.
The Texans. Football analogy. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Great defense.
Yeah,
That offense is
not the best to look at.
Yeah.
No, I'll give you a boxing analogy. They remind me of like Deontay Wilder, in a sense, where it's not the prettiest. Like it's unorthodox style of playing, but they're tough. They're tough-minded, and they'll knock your ass out if you look at them the wrong way, or if you think you can push them around. they're gonna push you back, and it's gonna be even worse. Like that's what it reminds me of. It's like Deontay Wilder or Javante Davis, where they're not the most um, I guess you could say most skillful boxer. They're not finesse. Like they're not gonna do all these behind the back passes, and they're not. You're not gonna see a bunch of pretty basketball like you normally would for a Boston Celtics or an Oklahoma City Thunder or a Denver Nuggets. But what we will see is guys playing maximum effort, guys crashing the glass, guys playing elite on ball defense and protecting the paint. I remember I was watching their game against the Knicks, and Isaiah Stewart, no, it was against the Celtics, and Isaiah Stewart made this amazing block against one of the Celtics bigs. And I was like, damn, that was an insane block. Like they'll do stuff like that you don't see from other teams. And that's why I believe they're the number one seed at this moment. Will it transition in the playoffs? I think defensively, they'll definitely transition. I think Cade in the playoffs, his game will definitely transition. But man, offensively, though, you got to score points. And in a half court setting, I don't know if they can consistently generate enough points to offset the other team from scoring enough points. So that's really my concern is that half court. If you're not crashing the glass, if you're not um, getting second chance points, if you're not speeding up the tempo, then how are you going to score points on a consistent basis outside of Cade Cunningham in the pick and roll or Cade Cunningham in the post? I don't know.
Yeah, they need more threats offensively. Sword Thompson is pretty much a defensive guy. You ain't really gonna get much out of him outside of that. Jalen Duren, he actually progressed very
He's
well as a
good.
player
He's
since
good.
he's good, but he's not a shooting threat, to be honest. He's not going to take 3-pointers. Tobias Harris is Tobias Harris. We already
He's
know what
good.
he yeah, he's not a bad
He's a good
player.
role. He's a good role
He's
player.
just, Tobias
Tobias
Harris.
Harris.
And Jaden Ivey, you ain't getting much out of him. Unfortunately, where you drafted him. They need more offensive threats. They just don't have enough outside of Cade. They don't have enough guys that just can create their own shot. And that's going to hurt them in the playoffs because you need at least two dudes that can get you a bucket when needed. And I don't see it on this roster currently. They're a really good team still. But like you said, when it gets April,
Yeah.
and we saw what happened when they went up against they played the Knicks last year and lost, right?
Yeah, they did in the first
Yeah,
round.
we saw what happened. They couldn't generate enough offense to match
But
what the Knicks were doing. So
yeah,
it
I do
might be the
wonder.
same story.
I do wonder though, is this the season where they can get away with that style of play because of the competition that they're going up against in the East? You got the Knicks that, in my opinion, are very soft. I don't want to
Yeah,
say soft, but they're
they
not.
could punk them.
They're not
Yeah.
a physical basketball team. They're more finesse. Their offense is a bit cluttered. They rely heavily on a lot of ISO ball. And then you have the Boston Celtics that are a really well coached team, and a lot of guys that didn't have as many minutes last year are stepping up to the plate and playing really well. And we'll get to them in a second. But my thing with the Celtics, they don't have enough talent. And I think from an athletic standpoint, I think the Pistons have an edge over the Boston Celtics as well. And then you got Toronto, not a lot of talent. They don't have a lot of skill to match up with Pistons. Cleveland, I think from a physicality standpoint,
Cleveland.
I don't think they match up with the Pistons, even though they can shoot the long ball. They're very inconsistent. Their two guard lineup is still very questionable with Garland and Donovan Mitchell. You can exploit that in the playoffs. And just the physicality, I don't think they match up with the Pistons. Philly, they could be a wild card. They could be a wild card because you got Maxey, you got if Paul, whenever Paul George comes back, I guess if MB stays healthy, which is a big if, and they also have the guy that they drafted, Edgecombe. They could be a wild card in this entire thing, but it seems like if there's going to be a year where a team is somewhat flawed and makes the NBA Finals, it seems like the Detroit Pistons could do it this year. But again, we still, I don't know. We got to see after the trade deadline.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with. This is a wait and see type team because they're looking good in the regular season thus far, but they have a lot of close games. Like a lot of their wins are pretty close games. It's like, man, you're supposed to kind of run these guys out the gym. But like that game against the Warriors, Steph left in the fourth quarter, and it was still actually he left in the third quarter. He still was they still was right in it with him. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
no Jimmy Butler too. So it's like you got you supposed to get them boys up out of there.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Um,
did beat the brakes off the Knicks.
like I mentioned, yeah, back on the 15th, I watched the game, and you could just tell the difference in physicality and effort and defensive mentality. The Pistons had all of that, while the Knicks they didn't. But moving on, I want to talk about the Boston Celtics because I think this is one of the surprise teams this season for me because I didn't think the Boston Celtics were going to be this good. I didn't think they were going to be a top three seed, tied with the Knicks actually for potentially the number two seed. Now the third seed right now, I think the Knicks have a better conference record. I think that's why they might have the edge over them.
And I
But
think they have one less loss.
yeah, you're right. You're right about. Well, no. They're tied in the loss
Oh, they
and
are?
win column. It's
Oh,
I think the Knicks have a better conference
okay.
record than them because the Celtics have 12 losses in the conference while the Knicks have 11 losses in the conference. So I think
Okay.
that's why they may have the edge over them. But this Celtics team, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the play of Jalen Brown. I was watching the Celtics Pistons game that happened some nights ago, I think on the 19th of January. And what I'm very impressed with Jalen Brown is his ability to create for himself, his ability to slow down the tempo, the stop and go. He's just done an incredible job of number one being able to finish with both hands now. Like he can actually finish with his left and being able to use his size and strength to his advantage against undersized guys, against guys that are not as strong as him, and able to get a shot off. So I'm very impressed with Jalen Brown. I think he's top four in scoring at this moment. He's easily be one has been one of the 10 best players in the NBA this year, and also other guys like Sam Hauser. He stepped up hugely in the absence of other players that they've either traded or injured at this moment. Peyton Pritchard has also stepped up immensely. He's done a really good job. Anthony Simons coming off the bench, he has been a huge addition for them as a bench scorer that they traded for. I believe they traded him. You know, the Drew Holiday deal. I believe they got him back because of that. And yeah, oh yeah, Derek White. I got to mention Derek White, but it's really been the strength of the team has been in their guard and wing play, and it's really helped them a lot this year, and that's why they are in the position that they are in right now. No Jason Tatum. I don't think Jason Tatum is going to come back this season, but man, they have been competing every single night despite the lack of athletic talent, despite the lack of shot creators, they still have been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. So I'm just curious, what's your thoughts on the Celtics this season? And yeah,
Year after year, my 49ers and Celtics comparison just gets truer and truer. You can't kill these dudes. I mean, like Brad Stevens is doing a great job in team. Joe Mazzulla is a heck of a coach, man. He really is. He really gets them boys out there. And the thing I like about the Celtics, they rarely look lost out there. They always are prepared night in and night out. They know what to do. They know what their role is. Like guys like Anthony Simons coming off the bench, averaging 24 minutes a game. He's putting up efficient numbers. Like you said, those other guys that stepped up. Jalen Brown is stepping into that number one role very nicely. It's almost as if he's been waiting for an opportunity like this. But yeah, it's just the Celtics are a tough team, man. I don't like them still, but you gotta give respect where it's due. They go out there, they play hard every night. They're not free wins like people thought they were going to be going into the season because Tatum got hurt. So unlike the other team was the Pacers, they stink now, but without Tyrese Halliburton. But no, the Celtics still kicking, man. Actually, they more than kicking. They thriving. Third seed in the East.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you watch the Celtics play, what I love about the Celtics is that even without Jason Tatum, even without Drew Holiday, even without uh, Porzingis,
Porzingis, yeah.
their offense is still functional. Is still an identity to their offense. There's still a purpose to their offense. It doesn't seem cluttered. There's spacing. There's still that relative spacing that Missoula likes in his offense because of Hauser, because of Pritchard, because of Brown, because of Simons, because of Derek White. Like there's still the elements of that offense that we've seen when they've had an elite level team. And they're still doing a lot of the things that resorts in winning, cutting, passing, shooting, all these things that you need in order to win in this league. And if they had the requisite talent, they would probably be in the finals again. But thank God they don't, because I don't want to see the Celtics in the finals again, because screw the Celtics. But I gotta give credit where it's due to Missoula as a coach, because he's really gotten these guys to buy in to his system, to his philosophy, even without the requisite pieces and talent that he's normally had at his disposal. He's still able to get the best out of his group, and this offense is significantly more fun to watch than the Knicks offense or the Pistons offense, and that's without Jason Tatum. That's without Drew Holiday. That's without Porzingis, which is saying a lot about how bad those other offenses are and how bad their offensive schemes are. If the Celtics have a more aesthetically pleasing and more functioning offense than teams with far more talent, that just lets you know how great of a job Missoula is playing right now.
Yeah. When you don't got the talent you gotta make sure the scheme is right because that's all you can rely on at that point.
Right, right. Um, Lastly, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about my Lakers. We got to talk a little bit about. we got. I wasn't gonna leave the pod without talking about my team, because this is also a
the,
Lakers
the
pod as
Lakers,
well.
man, y'all are a hilarious team, man.
We're one
Y'all
of
are a
the
funny team.
best clutch teams in the NBA. We're surprisingly the fifth seed in the NBA, and we have
Is that
uh
surprising though? That's kind of the range I
that's
had
kind
y'all
of
in
where
going
I
into the
had.
season. Yeah.
Nah, but you know what's funny is that we're 11 games over 500. We're the fifth seed in the West, but we're not a good basketball team. Like we have
Yeah.
so many holes, we have so many flaws. It's amazing how we're still able to stay afloat, despite the fact that we don't have Austin Reeves, despite the fact that we don't have a good center rotation, despite the fact that we don't have um, enough athletes on our team. We don't have enough two-way players
Defenders.
on our
Yeah.
team. And we're still 11 games over 500. And it's because our schedule has been really weak. Like we've been beating up on a lot of really bad teams. We were fortunate enough to play a Denver Nuggets team without Nikola Jokic. He just came back yesterday, by the way. But yeah, thank God we didn't have to play the Nuggets without Nikola Jokic, because we would have got our ass beat with Nikola Jokic on that team. But yeah, man, this Lakers team, oh my god, I got a lot to say. It's been a while. Um, Boy, oh boy. So what I said before the season started about the lack of talent is true. What I said about DeAndre Ayton ended up becoming true. I said it's gonna after a while we're gonna get tired of DeAndre Ayton. Everybody's gonna turn on DeAndre Ayton, and he's gonna be enemy number one. And that's exactly what happened, because as of this moment, for the past month, DeAndre Ayton has had a short leash. And it's because he's messing up on defensive rotations. He's giving up layups. His effort on the offensive end, he's missing layups. He's not doing the things you're supposed to as a starting center for the Los Angeles Lakers. And JJ Redick, if you've seen him on the podcast, if you've seen him on ESPN, you know his personality, you know how he is, and he's going to demand certain things to happen. He has an expectation for his players, and if you don't meet that expectation, he doesn't care who you are. He's going to snatch you off the court, and you're not going to be playing many minutes. And so, for a good number of games, DeAndre Ayton has been playing limited minutes because JJ Redick would snatch him, put him on the bench, and put in Jackson Hayes because Jackson Hayes is going to do a lot more of the dirty work, a lot more of the little things that you need in order to win basketball games, even though Jackson Hayes is not a starting caliber player. But even still, there's other things that this Lakers team. Oh man, oh man. The inconsistency, the lack of perimeter defense, the lack of shooting from the outside it seems like this has been a common occurrence with the Lakers ever since they won the 2020 bubble championship. It's the lack of outside shooting, it's the lack of athleticism from the wing and guard position. It's the lack of consistency from bench players like Gabe Vincent, Jared Vanderbilt, and etc. We're just not a good basketball team. It's just simple as that. A trade will not fix it. We can trade for whoever it may be. There's too many holes on this team to even be considered close to a championship level team. Like, you're going to have to pretty much scrap 5-6 players off this roster and replace them with decent enough role players in order to make any sort of semblance of a run to a championship. And then you got the Luka Doncic stuff, which is
how is his ankle? Is he gonna be all right?
He'll be. I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's that serious. I don't think it was that serious. But got the Luka Doncic stuff, which is, hey, he plays a certain style of ball.
Luka ball.
You need the right type of players to play along his style of play. And right now, we don't have that. We don't have a big that he can, run a two-man game where he's the lob guy and he can, boom, throw it up to him and he could catch it, or get a layup or something like that, or a floater. He doesn't have somebody like that. He doesn't have the 3-and-D guys that if he needs to make a pass to, that they'll knock down the three. He doesn't have somebody like that who can cover up his defensive mistakes.
You don't have that interior defensive pressure like they had on the Mavs with Gafford and Lively, to where even if he gets beat, them two step up and it's like, whoa. So yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you kind of, if you have Luka, you kind of have to run that system, because if you don't, it's like, well, it's gonna look like them other years Luka's been in the league. And the thing is, that system works until you run into a team like the Celtics, where it's a bunch of shooters on the court and they go 5 out, and then your centers is getting abused because they're not perimeter defenders. But yeah, the Lakers, y'all aren't a bad team. It's just y'all aren't a great team. Y'all are just like a team.
We don't have a high ceiling.
No, you don't.
No, we don't have a high ceiling. You know who Luka reminds me of? He reminds me of Aaron Rodgers. Like Aaron Rodgers, he has a certain type of way he wants to do things. He doesn't want much motion. He wants command in the line of scrimmage. He wants to do all these different things. It doesn't matter who's the head coach. We're gonna play it my way. And surround him with certain type of players. He wants a really good offensive line, guys that can communicate, guys that understand certain things. And if you're not on the same page as me, I'm not going to throw you the football, yada, yada, yada. That's the same thing with Luka. It's like, yo, I play this way. Give me this type of players that I need in order to maximize the style of play that I play. And it's that. Like, I'm not going to play elite defense. You're just going to have to understand that. I'm not going to be a guy that's going to move without the basketball a whole lot. I'm going to dominate the basketball, and I will generate looks for other guys. Exactly. So that's just how it is. That's just how it is.
Why does he keep gaining weight during the season? Like, what is wrong with dude?
I don't know. I mean, he looks fine. He looked fine against Cleveland.
He's not like. I don't think he's not as bad as it was on the Mavs, but good grief.
No, I mean a lot of players they end up gaining weight, especially on like long road trips, which the Lakers are on right now. You generally are gonna gain more weight when you're like on a long road trip because you got to go from city to city. You're not gonna have enough time to like really uh, diet or exercise as much as you want to. So
True.
at this moment, there, yeah, he's going to be more prone to gain some weight. LeBron has done it in the past as well, but LeBron is an elite level athlete and elite level in his conditioning and in his dieting. But with Luca, I'm not really too concerned with that. I think for the most part he looks fine. It's just for me the lack of defense and the dominance of the basketball, dominating the basketball can be annoying at times, but he's such an amazing shot creator. He's such an amazing passer that you just have to say, you know what? You just got to live with it. Just got to give him the right players. Let him cook. We saw what happened when you let him cook to his maximum capability, took him to the finals. Now, if you got to have four guys that can defend to a decent level, which he didn't necessarily have because he had Kyrie Irving with him. But yeah, man, Luca, it is what it is, bro. We got we don't have a high ceiling, and a trade won't save us. That's all I can really say.
Yes. I really see, like I said, I feel like that Luka move is something you're gonna have to go really get into once LeBron leaves the team or retires. Because I feel like with LeBron's on the team, I don't feel like they're going to be like a championship level team at this stage.
Because of the contract.
Yeah, and just like the way, like you guys still aren't great at building rosters.
No, no, we're not. And it's because some of that has to do with LeBron with the Rush trade. Um, Rob Pelinka and LeBron have their they need to be held accountable for that Russ trade that really screwed us over. But LeBron, he's never going to come out and say that it was my fault. So Rob Pelinka is always going to take the blunt of the blame. But it is what it is. Also, Jeannie Buss coming out with that article. She didn't necessarily. It was reports about her, but she wasn't the one that came out with an interview talking about all this stuff. It was just reports that people heard about her, what she said, yada 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 about LeBron and stuff like that. Jeannie Buss, listen, LeBron saved your ass. Let's be honest. He saved you. He saved you. Because without LeBron, you wouldn't have another ring. Without LeBron, you wouldn't have gotten Anthony Davis. Without LeBron, you probably wouldn't have gotten Luka Doncic. So let's be real. Let's be honest. It's okay to say that LeBron saved your ass because he did. Because without LeBron, you would be a dysfunctional mess. We're already a dysfunctional mess. But thank God you sold the franchise to somebody that understands how to run a competent sports team. Mark Walter, I believe his name is the owner of the Dodgers. Now he's the owner of the Lakers. Thank God. I don't know what's going on with. I need to read the article entirety, but I don't know what's going on with the whole family dynamic. But regardless, she needs to understand that without LeBron, none of this happens. None of this happens. LeBron, you know what LeBron is? LeBron is the Roman Reigns
Oh Lord.
for the Lakers. Roman Reigns saved WWE. LeBron saved the Lakers. That's what LeBron is to the Lakers. He's the Roman Reigns. Without LeBron winning that championship, without LeBron bringing some semblance of credibility to the Lakers after those 6 years of mediocrity, the Lakers would be in a far worse situation. They probably wouldn't have sold the team to Mark Walter. So That's where I'm at with the Lakers, man.
Yeah. So looking around the league, man, it's a lot of mid.
It's a lot of mid.
A lot of mid around the NBA this year.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
You
none of
know,
these teams really like.
yeah.
It still feels like a two-man race in the West at this point. Actually, I'll give the Nuggets with Jokic some. I'll give them three. I'll give a three-man race. And in the
Yeah,
East, I don't know what's going on.
yeah. The East is a toss up.
Yeah, it's literally just like it could just be it could. I don't know.
But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a
Yeah,
good thing that we don't know, so it makes the
that's
playoffs
true.
more exciting.
That is true.
Yeah,
Can't
like
count
like
any of these teams out against any of these other teams. So I guess that would.
like the NFL this year.
Yeah, true. That is true.
Who would have thought the Patriots versus the Seahawks? Like who would have thought that?
Yeah,
Like we thought the Seahawks were good, but at the same time, you tell somebody at the beginning of the season or even the halfway point of the season that the Seahawks will be the team to go to the Super Bowl, you'd be like, I don't know. I
yeah. I
gotta
don't
wait
know.
and
Yeah,
see. I gotta wait
but
and see.
hey,
The Rams are pretty damn good. I gotta wait to see.
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But on the final topic, and then we'll close it out. I do want to say this: the NBA has changed significantly in terms of roster construction, in terms of trades, in terms of how you draft, develop, and acquire talent. The whole Giannis situation, it goes to show how the landscape of the NBA has changed from the time LeBron or Kevin Durant or all these dudes that were demanding trades. Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins, all these dudes. These are amazing, talented players. Kawhi Leonard's, all these guys. They were able to go wherever they wanted to go, or they were able to get moved either in the off season or during the season. Because back then, you can gut your roster because you can always acquire more people because there wasn't no luxury tax to the level that it is now. There wasn't no second apron. There wasn't no first apron. But now it's just different. You're handcuffed
Yeah,
for the most part. And I think when we look back at this era, there has to be some level of context on exactly why players weren't able to win, or why players were able to win. And it's because the NBA in this era is a lot harder to compete and build a championship winner than what it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago when you didn't have the restrictions that you do now. So
I,
man on that one.
I can agree with that. I mean, like I said, drafting and developing is more prioritized than ever before, and you see a lot of teams are just playing for lottery picks at this point and praying that they get lucky enough to move up to a top 3 pick. And I feel like we got to get some regulation on that. I'm not too sure what they can do to make the system less tank friendly versus you're just a bad team friendly. But I don't know. It is harder to build championship level rosters. Like literally, the only teams that are considered real contenders is the Thunder and I guess the Spurs. And guess what? Those two teams have in common? All mostly homegrown talent. The Spurs pretty much all their core is pretty much drafted by the team except for De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes. So I mean, you gotta get that homegrown talent involved. The Nuggets still have Jokic and Murray who are homegrown guys, and so it's hard to build through the trades and off season free agency signings these days. So yeah, man, I agree with that. I feel like it is more difficult, and teams with good ownership are going to prevail more than the big market teams that can just sell off of, oh, we're such and such. People should want to come to us. Like, that's not the case as much as this anymore. Because the Lakers would be in a horrible spot if it wasn't for that Luka trade. last year.
Yeah, and you know what I don't like is when people say win, just win, blah blah blah. But here's the thing, like they say, oh, people that lose are not getting rewarded. Well, the Spurs, they've been losing for like 6, 7 years. They haven't made the playoffs in a good maybe 4 or 5 year stretch, and they get Victor Wembanyama, and all of a sudden after year two, they're winning a lot of games. So I don't want to hear about that whole teams that lose don't get rewarded. That's BS. They do get rewarded. It's just some teams are good, some teams are lucky enough to get the top pick, and some teams aren't lucky enough. You know that perfectly well with the Washington Wizards. They
Yeah,
just
and at least we
haven't
got
been
the number
fortunate.
2 pick. Granted, it was a weak draft class for what people have said, but they still some you still got some good players in that draft class. And we lucked up. We got Alex Sarr. He ain't want to go to Atlanta, so and then we got Keyshawn Johnson from that class as well. So I mean, you just got to know how to evaluate talent.
Mm-hmm. And the Thunder got very lucky as well because they got Chet with the two
Mm-hmm.
pick. Now, Shea, that was more identifying talent with the trade because they traded Paul George and they were able to get Shea from Paul George, who wasn't nearly the player that he is now. And then they were able to get Jalen Williams later in the draft. That was just good evaluation, good scouting. Man, this stuff is hard. This stuff is difficult.
Yeah.
And my final point, and then I'm gonna end it. I brought up my Lakers. I brought up how dysfunctional they've been and LeBron saving them. One thing that needs to be pointed out about the NBA and what's going on right now is the scouting. How much money you're putting into scouting, how much money you're putting into player development is very important. It's becoming the NFL
Mm.
from the perspective of if you want to be the best team, you're going to have to put money into scouting, into good coaching, into good
Analytics.
developmental code.
Yeah.
Huh? You said what?
Analytics.
Analytics. Like this stuff matters. And what I've noticed from my Lakers is that because Jeannie, I'm not going to say she's broke, but she doesn't have nearly the enough money as the 29 other owners, it has affected the scouting department. There's a reason why Rob Pelinka has 2 titles. He's president of basketball operations and he's the GM. When have you ever heard that? It's because we don't have much money. We can't hire a president of basketball operations and a GM. And the scouting department was relatively small. But when you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have a far better scouting department because they have more people on their staff. They put more money into their scouting department. That's how they're able to find a Jalen Williams. That's how they're able to find all of these role players that are in the rotation today. It's because they put money into those departments. And that's how the NBA is now.
Shoot, even the Wizards invested in our scouting and analytic department. We found plenty of solid players in the draft these recent years.
It's becoming more of that than just going to free agency and spending top dollar on a free agent. Now you have to really invest in scouting departments and good coaching, just like the NFL. So, yeah, man, that's just what it is.
I fully agree on that one.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, that'll do it on this episode of Courtside Podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below, hit the notification bell, follow the socials, and we will see you all in the next episode of Courtside Podcast. Thank you guys for watching, and peace.
Salute.
All right.